I'm Tim Stevens, and I just spent the day playing in the dirt with these two amazing toys. On my right is the Ford Ranger Raptor, and on my left is the Chevrolet Colorado ZR2 with the Bison package. Two of the best off-road trucks on the planet. And we spent all day putting them through their paces at a high-speed off-road course, a low-speed off-road course, and just driving them around in general to feel the difference between the two. And we know that a fair few of you are going to be cross-shopping between these two trucks. And so we thought we'd give you our impressions on these two, how they compare, because despite being extremely similar in many cases, they're actually quite different as well. So let's start with the exterior design. Obviously this is going to come down to personal preference, but for me, I like the look of the Chevrolet a lot better. I think the ZR2 is just far more aggressive looking, and this of course is a very aggressive class of truck. So the one that looks the most aggressive to me is the winner in this case. If you strip the graphics off the Raptor, it just looks like a plain old Ranger to me, and that is not what I'm looking for when I'm spending upwards of $60,000 on a high-performance off-road truck. That continues on to the interior as well. I actually like the interior of the ZR2 a lot better than I do on the Ranger Raptor. Not that there's anything wrong with the Ford's interior, but the design of the Colorado's interior I think is much nicer, and the color scheme in there is really fresh too. It's got kind of a light mint green with some fluoro yellow stitching that looks fantastic in there. I also like the controls for controlling things like the differentials and things like that. I have physical buttons for toggling the individual differentials in the Colorado. On the Ford, I got to go through the touchscreen, and you don't want to do that when you're bouncing over rocks and things like that. But there are some drawbacks to the Colorado's interior, the biggest one being getting up in the thing. There are no rails here to climb up into. You really need to jump yourself in there, and once you do, you realize that you can't see anything out of the rear view mirror. Having that spare mounted in the bed looks really cool, but if you need to see cars behind you, you can't see a thing. And sadly, Chevrolet did not put a digital rear view mirror on that truck. I have no idea why. Now, when you get in motion, that's when things change pretty substantially. So far, I'm loving the Colorado, but under motion, when we're driving, I got to give the edge to the Ford, especially in high-speed stuff. We were out there on our 2.5-mile rallycross course, and when I was able to get up to speed, put this thing in Baja mode, it is absolutely sublime. The power coming out of that 3-liter V6 is fantastic, and it actually sounds really good too. The Colorado, on the other hand, is a 2.7-liter turbocharged inline-4, which is down almost 100 horsepower compared to the Ford. And you can really feel it out there. That combined with a transmission that was just a little bit reluctant to give me the gear that I wanted when I wanted it made this thing feel much more sluggish at high speed, despite the fact that they both had the exact same 430 pound-feet of torque. But when we went to the low-speed course, that's when the tides actually turned a little bit, and in that case, the ZR2 actually felt more compliant. The Multimatic suspension on this thing is fantastic at any speed, but it felt really good over the rocks and low-speed crawling. And again, having those bespoke controls for the differentials meant I could get this thing dialed in very quickly, exactly how I wanted it to. And then there's the cost, because at the end of the day, you got to write a big check for either one of these. And for the ZR2, you can potentially get away writing a slightly smaller number on that check. The ZR2, as configured here, is actually substantially more than the Ranger, but if you ditch the Bison package, which gives you bigger tires and slightly more advanced suspension, it actually comes in at about $6,000 cheaper than the Ranger. And for me, the premium for the Bison package is just not worthwhile. I would personally go with the ZR2 in the lower spec without the Bison package. It'll save you a fair bit of money over the Ranger Raptor. But if you do have an opportunity to go higher speed, if you've got dunes near you can run on, or higher speed off-road courses like we were playing on today, in that case, the Ranger is absolutely worth the extra money. So it really just comes down to how much money do you want to spend and how fast do you want to go, because either of these trucks is fantastic.